Hello, storytellers and aspiring authors. Welcome back to Nakazzi Co, your go-to space for all things writing, publishing, and creative mastery. Today, we're diving into one of the most important aspects of storytelling, character development. Whether you're writing the next bestseller or crafting a memoir, creating characters that evolve is essential for crafting a compelling narrative. And as a special treat for our listeners, stay tuned until the end for an exclusive discount code for the Nakazzi Co Query and Edit Hub. You don't want to miss it. So let's talk about how to make your characters feel real, dynamic, and the most important thing, unforgettable. So we're going to kick this off with why character growth matters. I know, crazy question, right? Well, think of your favorite book or movie. What made the main character memorable? More often than not, it's their journey, how they started as one person and grow into someone entirely different, shaped by their experiences. Stagnant characters, on the other hand, can leave your audience feeling uninvested. Imagine someone reading your book and saying, "Nothing really changed for the main character." Yikes, right? I mean, I feel like that's every writer's nightmare. That's why showcasing growth, even in a subtle manner, is crucial. In fact, some would even argue more impactful. So we're going to shift this a little bit to the zero growth trap. That's right. If you haven't heard of the zero growth trap, where have you been? Living under a rock? Or maybe you've actually encountered characters that fall into this trap, but you actually haven't known what to categorize it as. But today we're going to break it down for you, and we're going to use an example. So let's start with the common missteps. Writing characters who don't evolve. So here's an example. Original growth. We're going to use Jessica as an example. So Jessica sat by the window, staring out at the pouring rain. She was sad, she would always been sad, and nothing would ever change. We're going to dive into this, we're going to analyze this the way that your readers would analyze it and process it in their minds. So now this sentence tells us Jessica is sad, but it also tells us she's stuck. There's no promise of change or growth, which makes her a passive character. And as readers, we crave transformation. We want to see our characters overcome struggles, even if only slightly. How do we revise this for growth? Well, it's pretty easy, but we're going to rework it. So stay with me here. Okay? So the revised version would go, Jessica sat by the window, watching the rain streak down the glass. A year ago, she would have let the sadness swallow her whole, but today, she just let it wash over her, knowing it wouldn't last. So we're going to dive into this a little bit more. So did you catch the difference? The same sadness still exists within Jessica, but her perspective has shifted. This tells us that while life isn't perfect, Jessica has learned how to cope. This kind of progression makes her more relatable and human, which is all we want our characters to be. We want them to resonate with readers. We want readers to root for them. We want readers sometimes not to agree with them. We want readers to see them as flawed individuals capable of growth, because we're not the same people we were 10 minutes ago. We're not the same people we were 10 years ago. Everybody changes. It might be subtle, it might be dramatic. So now, we've talked all about this. So say that you decide that you don't want to go to our Query and Edit Hub and engage with one of our editors or agents, but you want the tips to do it yourself. Well, there's 3. So you can apply this to your writing. So let's kick this off with use small moments. Growth doesn't have to be dramatic. A character overcoming a minor fear or changing their perspective on something small can be just as impactful. I mean, imagine if a character didn't want to, get their hair wet because they're maybe a bit more vapid, self-conscious, and, they don't like to get their hair wet. But at the end of their arc, they get their hair wet because they jump into a flowing lake to save somebody that they love and care about. That is growth. it might be a bit dramatic because, first of all, where did this come from? You're not throwing the reader a curveball. You are showing the reader through their arc that through the interactions they had with their friends, they realized had some self-growth, and they care about this person enough to realize that the superficial things don't mean anything. So it can be small things that are more impactful, and your readers will love your character more for it. So number 2 is create internal and external challenges. Push your characters to their limits. How they respond to challenges shows their growth. So if maybe before your character didn't respond, accordingly to a certain situation or scenario, doesn't mean that they don't do that again. It doesn't mean that they're still that person at the end of their arc. Show, don't tell. I feel like a lot of people shout this from the roof, the show but don't tell, but it's actually really important. Sometimes as writers, we find ourselves doing a lot of exposition dumping. Now, exposition is great if it's used appropriately, but you must master the show and don't tell. So instead of saying she was more confident now, show her walking into a room with her head held high, making direct contact with others, and taking control and charge of the situation. That shows that she's more confident. We've covered a lot, and we've covered the basics and the most important things, but we're gonna go by example now with regards to showing growth. Original growth versus revised growth, which is something that we do here at Nakazzi Co in the Edit Hub, so make sure you check it out. So we're gonna go for the first example, which is from fear to courage. So original growth, Maya stood at the edge of the cliff trembling. She hated heights and knew she'd never jump. Revised growth, Maya stood at the edge of the cliff, her heart pounding. A year ago, she would have backed away, but now she closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and leapt into the unknown. Why it works. The revised version shows a clear shift in Maya's courage. Even though fear is still present, her willingness to take the leap indicates growth. Now we're going to take it to example 2, from anger to forgiveness. Original growth. Ethan crossed his arms, glaring at the photo of his father. I'll never forgive him for leaving. Revised growth. Ethan picked up the photo of his father, tracing the edges with his thumb. The anger still lingered, but he felt a spark of something new, maybe forgiveness, or at least the start of it. Why it works. Here Ethan hasn't fully forgiven his father, but there's moments and he's moving towards letting go of his anger. Growth doesn't have to be instantaneous. Showing the beginning of change is often more realistic. Now, at the beginning, we already covered self-doubt to confidence, but this is another one that our Edit Hub, our Create and Edit Hub has worked with. So, original growth is Leela avoided looking at the audience. She knew she wasn't good enough to speak in front of so many people. Revised growth. Leela's palms were sweaty as she approached the microphone. She glanced at the audience, fear gripping her chest, but she straightened her back and began to speak, her voice steady despite the nerves. Why it works. This version shows Leela pushing past her self-doubt. She's not entirely free of fear, but her willingness to step up demonstrates her growth and confidence. On number 4, resentment to empathy. Now, our Query and Edit Hub deal with so many stories, and these are just simple excerpts from stories that they've worked with here and there. But if you really do want somebody to look at your story, you can always claim your free chapter critique. So make sure you check out the link in the description below, but we're on 4. So Ben avoided Sarah at work. She was lazy and he couldn't stand people who didn't pull their weight. Revised for growth. Ben caught Sarah staring blankly at the screen, her eyes red-rimmed. He hesitated, then sat down beside her. Hey, you okay? In this revised version, Ben shows empathy instead of judgment. The small action of checking in on Sarah signals an important shift in his character. Now we're on our final example, which is actually one of my favorites, which is from naivete to wisdom. So original growth, Leo signed the contract without reading it. He trusted people too much. Revised growth, Leo read through the contract twice before signing it. He didn't want to admit it, but the mistakes of his past had taught him to be cautious. Why it works. Leo's careful review of the contract shows he's learned from past mistakes and errors. Growth is often reflected in the small, deliberate changes characters make based on their experiences. Okay, so we've reached that point in the video where we're going to talk about exactly where character development comes in the editing process. Well, during the drafting stage, you're introducing your characters, defining their motives, and laying the groundwork for their arcs. While it's not necessary to perfect character development at this stage, you should ensure characters have their goals and conflicts, internal and external, that growth is hinted at or planned. You should know where your character starts and ends, even if details change later. Some key questions to consider. What are my character's flaws and strengths? What events challenge or drive my character's growth? Now, 2. Developmental editing strengthens the arc. This stage is where character's development truly comes into focus. Developmental editing examines the overall story structure and ensures that character arcs are consistent and compelling. What to focus on? Growth over time. Does your character evolve in response to the plot? Are their decisions and reactions believable? Motivation and believability. Do their actions align with their personality and experiences? Clarity of arc. Is it easy for readers to understand where the character starts, what changes them, and where they end up? So some examples to consider are, if a character's growth feels rushed, add more moments to build their transition. If their actions don't match their personality, tweak dialogue or internal monologue to justify their decision. Now, during the line editing process, it deepens the emotion regarding the character development and arc. So line editing hones in on the nuance of your writing, including how character growth is expressed through dialogue and descriptions and internal monologue. So what to focus on? Subtle shifting in behavior. Are small believable changes in thought pattern or behavior shown as the character grows? Consistency in tone. Does the character's voice evolve in alignment with their arc? Emotional impact. Are key growth moments described in a way that resonates with readers? Now the copy editing stage maintains consistency. So while copy editing focuses on grammar, syntax, and clarity, it also ensures that your character development remains consistent throughout the manuscript. What to check? Does the character's personality and decision or emotional state contradict earlier scenes within or without explanation? Are key growth moments aligned with timeline? And now we're on to the proofreading stage, which is the final polishing stage. So by this stage, the focus is on eliminating typos and formatting issues, but it's also a chance to make sure your character development reads smoothly. Minor adjustments to phrasing can subtly enhance how growth. Now, if you're doing this on your own, at Nakazzi Co, we do have tools within our writing and query hub that you can use. You only have to sign up to the mailing list in order to access those or become a member of our Now Nakazzi platform. All those resources are there. I do highly recommend that you sign up to the mailing list because you'll get a free villainess depth kit, and you get free resources mailed directly to your email, and they're just like amazing to use. I mean, I utilize them myself. Now, if you want to do this by yourself, I highly recommend that you don't cut corners. I know that pricing comes into it a lot, but you have to understand that your book is an extension of your project, of your mind, of yourself, and you're presenting it to the world, you're presenting it to agents, you're presenting it to publishers. You want to put your best foot forward, and it might seem expensive, but in the long run it will actually pay off. This is going to be out there forever, so you want it to be out there forever and be its best quality. So I do highly recommend that you do engage with Nakazzi Co.'s pro-writer service with our Query and Edit Hub. Everybody gets a 25% off discount on their first order. So, and the payment structure is actually really great. As somebody who has used manuscript services before, I do have to say that Nakazzi Co. has the best payment structure in regards to their services for manuscript, and I wish that I'd known about them sooner. I wish it was something that I had available to me when I was at this stage in my writing process. It would have really helped, and also it does help to have like a lot of support, because they don't just you don't just send off your manuscript to an editor and then get it back. You have the option to have Zoom meetings with them. You have the option to have sit-ins with the editor and agents. You have all this support with the editorial service consultants. So it's really there, and it really shows in the work that they do. And I'm just really proud not only to be a part of this team, but to help build it. And I hope that you would also consider to use Nakazzi Co, because honestly, like, I wish when I was at this point in my writing process, in my writing career, that I had a reputable place that I could go to and do all of this stuff in one place. It would have saved me time, scouring the internet and all of these different sites just looking for somebody. It would have saved me the time of paying somebody and then getting my manuscript back and it's still riddled with mistakes and they're not using the appropriate guidebook. It would have saved me a lot of time, where I would have just gone there, gotten my quotation, gotten my structure timeline of the project, gotten assigned my editorial service consultant, and gotten assigned my editor, and then taken off with my team to really help me edit this manuscript. So, but I'll leave you with 4 tips if you're seeking practical tips for editing, character development. So creating a character arc worksheet is something that you should do. We do have a character arc worksheet at Nakazzi Co. Again, you just need to sign up to the mailing list to get access to these resources. What this does, it tracks the character's starting point, key moments of change, and ending state to ensure logical progression. Beta readers. We have beta readers. By the way, if you want to sign up to be a beta reader, I'll leave the link in the comment section. Comment section? I'll leave the link in the description box. Somewhere around this video, there'll be a link if you want to sign up to be a beta reader. Now, our beta readers actually do have some things they have to do. They have to sign NDAs. They have to, you have to choose like exactly what genre you read in, because obviously if you love reading, science fiction, and then you're out here reading romance, it just doesn't really gel. We categorize our beta readers. Now, if you can't find beta readers for yourself, simply go to our Query and Edit Hub, our professional writing services, and select the beta reader option for yourself. So we ask our beta readers to assess whether the characters feel dynamic and relatable. You can do that too with whoever you decide to go with. So highlight growth moments, identifying scenes that mark pivotal change in your character's arc. ensure they're emotionally impactful and supported by previous events. We don't want things to come out of the blue for our, readers. And then the final point, seek professional feedback, aka Nakazzi Co's professional writers hub, the editing and query hub, or the query and editing hub. Editors specialized in character development can provide individual and invaluable insight. And not only do we provide that, but we provide you with a plethora of tools, resources, and connections so that you can get your book published. So at Nakazzi Co, our editorial services include a detailed character development analysis during developmental editing and line editing stages. If you need help crafting authentic growth arcs, consider using our services. And now for that cool discount code and final thoughts. Remember, character growth isn't just about where they end up, it's about the journey they take to get there. Even subtle changes can make a world of difference. And before we wrap up, here's something to help you turn that CD20 into a CD25, our services. Whether you're perfecting your query letter, or you're fine-tuning